Do you think it's a good idea to buy electric cars? Well, a lot of people have been asking it because it's all the rage. I'm going to share a list of 5 reasons why this might be the time for you to go out and buy yourself an electric car. Let's get into it now.
Life's too short to drive boring cars.
The first one happens to be related to specifically the financial end of it. You can often get lease and payment options that do kick back extra incentives and dollars into your pocket when you step into one of these brand new electric vehicles. Some of those incentives may actually be federal tax credits that provide you anywhere from $2,500 to $7,500 back to you just because you're buying an electric vehicle. CVRP, Clean Vehicle Rebate Program, also may kick in for certain people of a threshold. If they're below that threshold, you may actually get additional rebates and dollars back in your pocket for that. And in some jurisdictions, they often offer up local rebates to actually further enhance your buying power and get you more money in your pocket. So often a lot of these buying incentives are getting people back in the black financially. And absolutely, a lot of the industry's pushing and there's pressures for people to buy, but there's lots of incentives by governments, regulators, as well as manufacturers to get you, the buyer, into buying one of these modern day electric vehicles. And the fact of the matter is they're not going away, and while there may be alternative fuel options, for example, like hydrogen, and of course, refinement to the internal combustion engine, the reality is there's a strong push and a pressure that this likely will be here for many years to come. The second reason why you might consider buying an electric car comes down to maintenance and fuel costs. Of course, we already know that a lot of savings can be had at the utility level, off demand hours. So when you charge your vehicle, if you charge them during the day, during peak time, noon and 2 o'clock, you're probably going to pay a premium, but honestly, some of your utility rates can be negotiated, and often a lot of those rates are lower outside those peak times. For example, when you're at home sleeping at night, you can close your eyes, your car's on the charge, and by the time you get up in the morning, you're all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, and the fact of the matter is you charge it on the lower rates by the utility, and that does add additional cost in your pocket. We can't forget to talk about maintenance costs. We also know that you don't have things like spark plugs and fuel filters, oil changes, coolant flushes. You don't have a lot of those parts and pieces that are moving that need regular maintenance. And while you have batteries that may need changing after 12 or 14 years, the fact of the matter remains you don't need to change batteries all that often, and the motors generally run for a long time. So from day-to-day use, most of the maintenance required is really restricted primarily to your tires and your brakes and the odd visit to the service shop for an update on your software. But generally speaking, maintenance costs are quite low relative to their counterparts on the luxury car segments. We also can't forget about fuel costs as part of that, because the way it works out right now in California, the average is about half the cost to run an electric vehicle like this than it is to run a counterpart on the ICE or internal combustion engine. So yes, there's no question you're going to save fueling costs. I even know people here that were charging it up for about $12 or $14, and they were basically getting another 300 kilometers out of it, meaning that they were literally going to save a pile of money instead of using gas or fossil fuels to move their vehicle down the road. So generally your day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month maintenance, service, operations costs are definitely going to be lower than you would find in internal combustion engine type vehicle, and therefore it could represent a huge win financially if that's your bottom line. The next one has to do with carpool lanes. If you're in California, you can appreciate that there's that infamous carpool lane where you have to have 2 or more people in a vehicle to use it because it gets you down the freeway in a hurry. But according to the Clean Air Vehicle program, you're able to actually run a Tesla single, solo. That's right, you don't get harassed by the fuzz, and you're able to get down the road in quick time with your Tesla non-stop, essentially rocket yourself to work, playground, whatever it is you do, and maybe trying to get to the beach in a hurry. You can do that in your Tesla because of that Clean Air program. It's wonderful. The fourth reason why you probably want to consider buying an electric vehicle is look at the air. It's so nice and fresh, makes you feel good. Nice to smell fresh air, isn't it? But that's the problem. About 93% of Californians are sitting in areas that have no smog control, and vehicles are polluting to the point of almost self-destruction. The pollution is getting excessive, the carbon emissions is high, and of course, why do you ever think you see pictures of California, you look at Los Angeles in the morning and you see all that smog covering the city? That's because of the pollution that we're seeing from carbon-based vehicles like internal combustion engines driven either through diesel or gasoline. So that's where the benefits of cleaner air outweigh the front-end frivolity that you might experience with an internal combustion engine. All of us are trying to do our part to try to keep the planet better and more sustainable for generations generations after us, and this is just the next step to potentially helping that cause. Now, of course, hydrogen fuel cells is another benefit that also does provide similar greatness in the way of reduces emissions, and tailpipe emissions are virtually zero. But that's the bottom line, is just trying to clean up the air for those generations and those kids and grandkids of ours in the future. And yes, there's another huge benefit of driving an electric vehicle, particularly when we're looking at vehicles like this. They've garnered such a reputation in this particular space. And I can't help but say, because I've personally driven several models from Plaids, X-Plaids, all the way down to Model 3s and Ys of base models and everything in between. And I can actually attest to some of the benefits that you'll actually get by driving these in different variations. And what are some of the benefits? Well, the bottom line is performance. And with a vehicle like this, obviously the handling, batteries do add weight, and there's no doubt about it, electric vehicles are heavy. So while performance seems a slightly hampered to offset the all additional weight due to all the batteries on board, the fact of the matter remains, the batteries are low in the chassis. In other words, it allows for that lower center of gravity and that handling to be much improved over a lot of other vehicles that are internal combustion engines that have a big heavy steel lump right up top. So often those do suffer both a weight penalty as well as potentially the offset of the height and the elevated center of gravity. But the other benefit is, I'll tell you right now, if you've never had a chance to drive an electric vehicle and you decide to put your foot down, it's nothing short of breathtaking.
It's essentially one gear and it's go. So as you pick up speed, it gets even more jam. So we punch it. Oh.
Get even a base model or a extended range Model 3 and you'll find out quickly that probably almost any vehicle that you've driven on the performance realm couldn't hold a candle to even a Model 3 extended range, let alone a Model X Plaid or even S Plaid. Like this car right here is blisteringly fast to the kind of performance that you hit the throttle from a standstill and it actually takes your breath away, sucks in your guts, sucks in your diaphragm and your lungs, and you literally can't breathe for a few seconds, and it doesn't let go. And a lot of that has to do with that instantaneous low-end torque that you benefit from electric motors that you just can't develop with an internal combustion engine. No matter how much power and performance, supercharging and forced induction that you apply to them, they just can't quite compete with that bottom end from 0 to hero in a hurry. So definitely electric cars have that blistering acceleration you'll really, really enjoy. And with all of that said right there, that video is going to help you make those decisions, the pros and cons about getting into the electric car market. Hope to see each and every one of you on the next one. We'll see you real soon. Bye-bye.